ain't really been in the mood for fake news. Are you a ock or a op? Can't choose, you fake too. Ruach HaKodesh, my force field like King Bruce. The most high, put my feet on the gas, I can't cruise. Praise the most high, feet on the grass, I can't lose. Stick to the plan like we building a house, now make room. You ain't never seen me in this color like Beirut. People acting like repenting is something they can't do. Are you dumb or not? People choosing hell over heaven, but they know it high. Of course, you can find me in the present like I know the spot. He gave me these words, what a blessing, I'ma pour it out. People seeing water where my breath is, yeah, I flow a lot. Holy Spirit shining in the dark like you control the tide. People out here thinking it's a game, but you control the pride. If you thinking what I'm saying is lame, I can't socialize from now on. I'm just gonna stay in my lane like I'm motorized. What you thought? I should dumb it down to maintain. You going off, the devil turning up, so I am too. No going soft. Every scripture in that Bible a sword. This is a walk. What you thought? An Naviel gon' help you see clear, just like the frost. The Most High speaks, but they don't fear him. When he talk, you don't want to hear them words, don't know you. So depart, repent. Yeah.
Do good in thy good pleasure, O Zion. Build up the walls of Jerusalem. Oh, Father, hear me. Forgive me. And purge me from my sins and iniquities. Hallelujah. Oh, Father, we praise you. Hallelujah. In the last days, thy sons and daughters shall prophesy and call upon the name Yod-Heh, Wad-Heh. Humble, let's meditate. And take, cry aloud and spare not. Let's get it.
I'm watching that clock like we in the fourth quarter. Messiah is coming. It's almost the hour. We roll with 144,000. He blessed the elect and he's showing his power. And I've been fasting, so that mean I'm hungry. So that mean the demons I have to devour. Reading Ephesians, I don't fight with flesh and blood. I fight with principality and powers. Please tell the evil, don't challenge me. My name is humble, I gotta be, I'm a descendant from the tribe of Benjamin. Don't wake the wolf up inside of me, Heaven to hell, bottom or top. I'll pick the top like a lottery, Get it? Lottery top pick. I'll pick the top like a lottery, Forget it. Israelite, yeah, my squad is the biggest. Its nationality is not a religion. Pharisees trying to catch me slipping. They watch me like a museum exhibit. I don't have to fake the laws, I live it. You are living a facade, I get it. And you don't believe in y'all, you ignorant. Visionary, don't fit your description, I'm gone.
Yod-Heh, Wad-Heh, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob.
Yod-Heh, Wad-Heh. Humble, let's meditate. And take, cry aloud and spare not. Let's get it.
All right. Make sure my volume is good. Let's see. There we go. That's a little bit better. Excuse me. Took a little bit to get in here. Jose will be joining us shortly. And so while he gets in here, I'll go over what tonight's show is. We're going to be doing 2 lessons in one. Or lesson/review, however you want to call it. When this whole tunnel thing was going on with the Chabad Lubavitch Hasidic community in Brooklyn, Crown Heights area, one of the first things that popped to my mind that I wanted to talk about, which I didn't go into that much on my other show, The Political Matrix, but I wanted to save that for this format because I feel like it's a better format for us to do it over on Hebrew Apologetics. So today we're going to go into just a little bit of their beliefs. Excuse me. Keep in mind, I'm not going to profess that I'm an expert on all of their beliefs, and if I get things wrong about what they believe, I am perfectly fine with being corrected by somebody who knows better. But I just felt like I want to be able to give people a little overview of the belief system, or at least just some of the beliefs, because just like in Christianity, there are different viewpoints, there are different bases for the belief systems that people have. Just like in Islam, there's different belief systems, and even with Hebrew Israelites, there are different belief systems. So I don't want us to get in the mindset, or if we're having a conversation or dialogue or even debate with somebody who is of a different faith or different understanding, I don't want us to all group them and automatically assume that this person here has this belief system or that belief system. I want us to be a little bit more aware and understand the differences between some of these belief systems instead of categorizing as a whole. So that's what we will talk about first. Later on, I did want to get into the book of Clarence. And I forgot to pull it up. I'll pull it up when we get to it, when Jose hops on. But this is definitely, if you plan to see the movie and you haven't seen it yet, warning, there will be spoilers. There are things that I want to point out. Of course, you have the Christian community has their point of views, and you have other people, and I just want to kind of give our perspective on what we saw of it. Of course, I'll definitely wait till Jose gets in here because I want to hear his input. He saw it last Friday. I saw it on Tuesday, and we both have our different viewpoints. Since my computer has been having the problems of freezing up, I'm not going to pull the stuff up on the screen like I would prefer to do. What I will do is I will well, I guess since Jose, here he comes. Um since Jose is in the building now, Shalom, brother. Um oh, no sound. There you go.
See?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay.
So what I want to do when we get into that is I want to go over some of the things that we noticed, some of the things which good about it, bad about it, and criticism and critiques that I've heard. And so we will start off. Oh, that's what I was saying. I don't want to put anything up on the screen because of the issues that I've been having with my computer. I'm glad that Jose has hopped on now, just in case it freezes me out. He could be able to keep the class or show going. And I will share over with him some of the stuff that I have. I grabbed it so that it would be just in case he had to hop in, he'll be able to read through it and keep up with it. But I have my different takes and notes and different stuff which I know about the subject. So first, what I will do is I will see. Actually, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to send it to you first. I'm going to send you this information first.
Okay.
That way you can bring it up on the screen. And I don't want to have the issue of it being
You freezing up?
yeah, of me freezing up. So actually let's see. Copy link. Let me copy link. And so I'll send this first one over so I can get this over to you so that I'll be able to get started shortly after. Okay. That's the first one that I'll send over. So but first, before we get started with anything, Jose, can you salute us in?
That is all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God Yahweh, in the name of His only begotten Son Yahweh Shai. Salutations to all the 12 tribes scattered abroad. Lord willing, this show / class will be edifying for you all.
Yes. And I will also even extend that to any of those listening who could pass on this message or may be a vessel to pass on to the hopeful elect. We never know the Most High, in the days of Pharaoh, and not even only Pharaoh. There are plenty of times where the Most High has worked through other nations to get that message through to the Israelites, and so however the way the Most High Father Abba decides to work, we are perfectly fine with it. So I sent you over this overview. For most people that don't know what the Chabad Lubavitch is, and kind of been in Iraq the last probably week or so, week and a half, when you guys have been hearing about that whole tussle and everything that has went on in New York's Crown Heights district with the Hasidic Orthodox Hasidic um, Jewish faction. That is what we're talking about with the whole tunnels thing that everybody's heard about. And we're not going to spend this class going into speculation on what was going on in the tunnels or what wasn't going on in the tunnels. We want to focus specifically on what do they believe in general. And I think that alone is worth a discussion more than anything else. Um, some of the history on them is that they start out of Russia and Ukraine. Um, they are kind of unique as far as some of the different sects of Judaism because they almost work almost like a royal family, almost like a dynasty. The oldest Sniderson, he goes back to I want to say the 1800s, and they've been going down through like almost a family line. You had the sixth rabbi, which was what was his name? I'm forgetting right now. Oh, I guess you can go ahead and put it on the screen.
You sent this on Twitter?
Yes.
And hang on.
And while you're getting that one up on the screen, I will send you the other links. And one of the videos, like one of the things which is very, very interesting about this is the sixth Rebbe, which Rebbe is another name for rabbis, is what they call them, came over. Like, let me switch that view. Let's put it on the side. So
you're talking about the founder?
Yes, the founder.
So that's Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Chabad philosophy is based on the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov, founder of Hasidism, and the Majid of Mezrich. The irony of using Baal.
Yeah.
Whoops. The Baal Shem Tov's successor and Rabbi Shneur Zalman's teacher and mentor. The teachings of Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi, the first Chabad Rebbe, formed the basis of Chabad philosophy. Rabbi Shneur Zalman's teachings were greatly expanded upon by succeeding generations of Chabad Rebbe's. One of the most central Chabad works is the Tanya by Rabbi Shneur Zalman, and many themes found in the Tanya received greater treatment in subsequent works.
And so these different works that he's reading about there, these are when you go into some of the sages and rabbis that you would find in the Babylonian Talmud. Some of these rabbis, you will find them in there giving their commentaries in the Mishnah. Or let's see, is it the Mishnah or the Gemara? I believe it might be in the Gemara actually, because when you look at the Talmud, you have two different parts. You have the Mishnah and you have the Gemara, and you'll hear a lot of times people say, "Oh, well, it's the study of the Torah, the Torah, the Torah." you have to keep in mind in Judaism, when they refer to the Talmud, a lot of times they call it the oral Torah. So when they're saying Torah, they might not be talking about the Torah which you're thinking of, as in the Pentateuch. And for anybody who's listening, who is a Christian, who when you just hear names like Torah being thrown around in Pentateuch, what that actually is the first 5 books of the Bible. Um, it's really no different at all. I mean, you'll hear different people. You'll hear different Orthodox, or I'll just say people within Judaism will believe or claim that it's very, very different. Or, oh well, no, you guys are misunderstanding because you don't have the proper. But um, I have a Tanakh. What is it? Mine is the what is it? 19 Tanaka 1917, and it's English to Hebrew, and it has it has English and modern Hebrew in there, and so you're able to look at the translation from rabbis and from people who are proficient Hebrew speakers, giving what the translation would be in English, and those translations aren't very much different from a lot of the Bible translations which you'll run across, whether that's the King James 1611, the NIV, ESV. So a lot of those translations will be very similar. So don't get all tripped up when you guys hear words like Torah or Pentateuch. Pentateuch is just 5. It's the 5 first books, or the books of Moses, or Moshe, as they say. So that's the first thing I wanted to keep in mind. The Mishnah. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I got a precept in mind.
Oh, go ahead.
Concerning the need for what's it called, a commentary on the Torah itself.
That's pretty much what the Talmud is.
Yeah, I got this precept in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so let me drop this for a moment. Share this.
Oh, that's right. I was supposed to be sending you over.
All right, so this is Numbers 12 and 6. And he said, "Hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, the Lord, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream. My servant Moses is not so, who is faithful in all mine house. With him will I speak mouth to mouth, even apparently, and not in dark speeches. And the similitude of the Lord shall he behold. Wherefore then were ye not afraid to speak against my servant Moses?" Key point I want to bring out here is like whenever you read anything in the Torah, it usually starts out with, like, in terms of commandments or laws, statutes, and judgments, it usually starts off with, "And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying X, Y, Z." Like the Lord, the Most High, intended to speak to Moses like in a very clear, plain, simple manner, and like it makes sense that if the Most High wanted all these commandments to be followed, it should be read as is, as close as possible, and there's not a need. I don't think there's as much of a need for an abridged thing or a commentary to like supplement.
Well, and I agree, but this is what you'll hear back if you were talking to somebody within Judaism. What they'll tell you is that he did speak this to Moses, that he spoke this to him, but it wasn't written down. This was just kept as an oral tradition for until they decided that, okay, well, now we need to write it down later on. And the first time where you can really find any proof of the Talmud, which is they call the oral Torah, is well after the Bar Kokhba revolts. I mean, we're talking about what 300, 400 AD is when you first start hearing about like this oral Torah. And this is also now you do have accounts of a Talmud. You have the Babylonian Talmud and the Jerusalem Talmud. But I mean, I don't want to get us bogged down into all the specifics on the Talmuds and all that. But just the point that I'm getting to is this is what a lot of the focus in Judaism is on. Whether you're talking to a Karaite, whether you're talking to an Orthodox, whether you're talking to a Chabad or a Chabad Lubavitch, which that's even a different sect. You even have a different sects between Hasidic movements, whereas they kind of believe the same thing. They just have a different method of doing things when it comes to dealing as far as the Messiah. And that's one thing that's a misnomer that a lot of people don't realize about Judaism. They'll say that Christ or Yahushua is heretical, or Jesus, as Christians will call him. They'll say that that's heretical. But they still believe in a Messiah. They just don't believe that he is the actual Messiah. And it's kind of ironic with the topic that we're going to talk about later on with the book of Clarence, because this is why I kind of wanted to just go ahead and do them together, because it kind of ties together. We in Christianity, there is a belief in the Messiah which is very similar to what a lot of Hebrew Israelites believe in ways, but I think it's a very softened version and kind of almost a little disconnected from what you read as far as the end times prophecies. And it's almost kind of like, well, all this stuff is going to happen, but it's almost like it's disconnected from the Messiah. Like the Messiah is not, you get what I'm saying, Jose? And I'm pretty sure that that's probably prompted you. I'm pretty sure that probably prompted you a scripture.
Yep.
All righty.
Okay, so I'm thinking of sharing this. John chapter 10, and I'll start at verse 34. Yahushua answered them and said, "Is it not written in your law, I said, ye are gods? If he called them gods, unto whom the word of God came, and the scripture cannot be broken, say ye of him whom the Father hath sanctified and sent into the world, thou blasphemest, because I said, I am the Son of God." Key point being, the scripture that cannot be broken is everything referring to the Old Testament, if he's quoting the book of Psalms.
Mm-hmm. Which and when you take that down, don't get rid of it. You're going to need that scripture later. That's going to tie in later, definitely.
Okay.
Let's see, what was I going to say? That's what I'm saying. For instance, and you have some Orthodox, which, I mean, one of these days we'll go into a class and just breaking out, some of the differences between the different sects and beliefs within Judaism. But pretty much majority of Judaism believes in a Messiah, whether they say it or not. They just don't believe that Christ is the Messiah. And another difference is, whereas Hebrew Israelites, we believe that Christ is the Messiah. We do not believe in the Trinity, though. We do not believe that he is literally God manifested himself down on earth. As some Christians will say, well, he's 100% man and he's 100% God. How can you be? That's 200%. That's not 100%. I don't think Christians understand math very well, but I often hear them say things, and it's like, in the Bible, the Most High literally tells you he's not the author of confusion. But yet, some of the belief systems, you guys are twisting yourself into pretzels over believing it's because it's been a doctrine that's been taught down through the church and it's kind of ironic. This ties in with what we'll talk about later. But the Romans took the books, they took it, and then they started practicing, the belief system to a degree. Now, it's just like if I took your journal. Am I going to get the proper understanding correctly? No, I'm not. And that's the same thing which has happened with the Roman Catholic Church and what is passed down those belief system, whether you're Lutheran, Protestant, or whatever. There's some fundamental misunderstandings which has been taught wrongly over the millennia from the Roman Catholic Church, whether you believe it or not. That said, back to this Rebbe. So the sixth one, can you bring that one up? I sent it to you. Yosef Yitzhak.
Yeah.
That's the one. That's the one who he left during, was it 1940, in the 1940s, and went to and he left from what would be like modern day Ukraine, I believe, and was leaving from there and came to New York. So you read it, just Russian Empire, present day. Okay, so it's actually Russia, which all of that stuff that was going on is right on that border line. And then his son, right there below, he married his second cousin. Oh, go back up a little.
Oh, sorry.
You see, Menachem Mendel Snyderson. That's the famous rabbi which you hear about, which many of them believe is their actual Messiah. Now, what they believed also is, but besides, of course, keeping Torah and observing high holy days and keeping kosher and things like that, whether they might have, we interpret things different than they do, but overall that they believe that they're supposed to follow the law, statutes, and commandments of the Torah. Now, that said, they also have rabbinical traditions which they get from the Talmud, which that's where the separation more comes in between the different sects of Judaism. But the one key thing which even people within even other sects of Judaism find problematic about the Chabad movement is they believe that their rebbes or rabbis within each generation is the Messiah. And so they've believed all of these different Snydersons have been messiahs. Now, their prerequisite, what they believe in for a Messiah, is the Messiah is supposed to bring peace on earth, supposed to have complete understanding of the Torah and Talmud, and also supposed to build the third temple. Now, that is one of the big things, and part of where some of the ridicule to them has come in as of late is this last rabbi, Menachem Mendel Snyderson. He was unable. Well, we don't know. I don't know if he was unable to produce or he didn't produce. And within their laws, they believe that if you are married to a woman who cannot produce you an heir, according to their laws and their interpretation of the law, that they're supposed to divorce her so that they could get with a woman that can produce them an heir.
That's violation of Deuteronomy 4 and 2. You cannot add to the law nor take away anything from the law.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm just going off of giving you guys, and I just wanted to put out an understanding of just some of their belief systems, and anybody can see that many of the belief systems that you would see within some of these sects which focus more on the Talmud than the Torah, they start having contradictions with the Torah. And I forgot another key thing, which is a belief. Where was it at? The belief in what was it? Zohar. There's a belief in Zohar. Now, Jose, are you familiar with the Zohar?
The only thing I know about the Zohar is that it was an important item in a very, very old PlayStation 2 series of games called Xenosaga, which had a lot of Judaism airs like in the game itself. You even have 12 other like mystical objects and like mechs named after the 12 tribes of Israel. But
Interesting.
yeah, but yeah, like other than that, I know nothing.
I give you just a little bit of a definition which I was able to find. The Zohar is the canonic work of Jewish mysticism. The work represents one of the most elaborate and influential attempts in any tradition to interpret the Bible, and certainly the most important effort among Jewish mystics. That ties on to the next belief. This one you guys might be a little bit more familiar with, Kabbalah. Which are you familiar with what Kabbalah is? Kabbalah is Jewish mysticism and a belief in trying to understand cosmology and cosmography and understand the essence of God and things like that. That gets into numerology and things like that also.
Isn't that dangerously close to worshiping the hosts of heaven?
Thou sayest. I'm just saying that a lot of the beliefs and a lot of the focus gets into focusing on a lot more than just the Pentateuch, which, I mean, even if we're just looking at let's just say, okay, for just looking at the Torah alone, without worrying about a Talmud or anything, there's so much to actually absorb and read in there if you actually read through it, as it says. You know, what's that scripture that it tells you? Why am I having a brain fart? Let's see, line by line. You know which one I'm talking about?
Isaiah 28.
Yes, thank you. Isaiah 28. Grab that for me.
Okay.
This is what it tells you how you should read the Bible. Even though a lot of Christians read the Bible like they're just reading a regular book, this is why some of the meanings are skipped over. And since there's not a focus on trying to see, okay, well, when I'm reading this, what's the true understanding? What does this mean in the Greek? Which it might have been translated from, which of course it was translated in Hebrew before that. But anyway, the point is looking at the language which it was translated from to try to get a better understanding of the context of what's being said here. So, continue.
Isaiah 28:9. Whom shall he teach knowledge, and whom shall he make to understand doctrine? Them that are weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast. For precept must be upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little, and then there a little.
Yes, and the reason why that's important is because if you were doing that, you can allow the Torah, you can allow the Tanakh, or as Christians would say, the Old Testament. You can read through that and allow for it will give you the definitions of what things are talking about if you go through it and just read it properly and read the context. And the same, for Christians who, for, I'll say, believers of the so-called New Testament. It's the same thing there. If you read through that properly, you'll see that, oh well, wait a minute, this is giving a reference to something somewhere, and you might find that in the so-called Old Testament. And then if you read that account, you'll get a better understanding of what it's actually talking about to give you a fuller understanding of what's paraphrased there. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, precept to where you're saying, like
Mm-hmm.
taking other languages into account. So this is the prologue to Ecclesiasticus or Sirach.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Where do I want to start? Um, Wherefore, like this is the author trying to like explain something about the book of Sirach. So, prologue to Sirach. Wherefore, let me entreat you to read it with favor and attention, and to pardon us, wherein we may seem to come short of some words which we have labored to interpret. For the same things uttered in Hebrew and translated into another tongue have not the same force in them. And not only these things, but the law itself and the prophets and the rest of the books have no small difference when they are spoken in their own language.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's the reason why. That's the reason why one thing which I feel is often misinterpreted it when talking about the Messiah or talking about uh, as we would say Yahweh Shai, some will say Jesus, some will say Yeshua. When you look at it and he brings up the scripture, ye doesn't it say in your law, ye are gods. Paraphrasing, of course. When he's saying that, the understanding that translation of gods, well, what does that mean? What is exactly does it mean? And a lot of Christians, because they don't understand that there is a difference. Like for instance, in Greek, there's not one word for God. There's two words for God: theon, theos. When it's talking about the Father, it only calls him theon. Theon is only ever used for the Father. It's never used for anybody else. But theos is used for gods, angels, kings, soldiers, like all kinds of people. And theos is still translated into gods. And that's the reason why you'll see in English people talk about, is it lowercase or is it uppercase God?
Yeah, like that's how people very easily would get tripped up of with John 1 and 1,
One and one, yeah. Oh, definitely.
which let's
The word
just
was with God. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, definitely.
let's just get it really quick.
Yeah. Go ahead and go ahead and get it, and then break it down for him.
And I actually have another example, which
Mm-hmm.
the sons of thunder is the one that helped me with figuring out the next one. But
Mm-hmm.
for now, this is John 1 and 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God.
Mm-hmm.
All things were made by him, and without him was not anything made that was made. That is on a surface level, that like verse 1 and 1 is all sorts of madness. But
Mm-hmm.
when you look at the Greek, you're gonna see theon
Mm-hmm.
and theos, two separate divine entities, not the same co-equal, co-eternal being.
Well, and then there's that other one where for and I was listening to different breakdowns earlier, and people were going into like talking about the Book of Clarence, and oh well, they were going into how his belief that Jesus is God, and it's like, well, then who is Jesus as God? Because he says he has a God,
All right,
and
one
and
more.
it go on ahead. Oh, go on ahead.
All right, so
Well, Jesus says he has a God, and it literally tells you that he was the firstborn of all creation. That means he was a created being.
here's Philippians 2 and 6. Well, let me start at 5. Then let this mind be in you, which also was in Hamashiach Yahushai, who, being in the form of God, thought it not robbery to be equal with God. That screams a Trinity implication. But when you actually break down the Greek, it's going to read, who in the form of God existing, not something considered to be equal with God.
Yeah, it's clearly telling you that they're not equal.
But like, something that needs to be kept in mind is that when King Henry VIII in 1538-ish had separated away from the Roman Catholic Church, the scholars at the time who translated the KJV in 1611, they were born and indoctrinated with Catholicism ideas already. So they thought it was perfectly okay to have that Philippians 2 and 6 translated that way.
Mm-hmm. And so, and let's see, what was it? I wanted you to bring up also because that whole talk of when you'll hear people, especially you'll hear some Orthodox people who will say, "Oh, it's just about," because that's a difference which you'll have in certain forms of Judaism where they just believe that, oh, it's just all about Torah. And if you like, I'm trying to think, what's a good example? You remember what was that one guy that I covered not that long ago, that debate? I can't remember his name, but man, I could see his face so clearly, but I can't remember his name. Anyway, he was talking about how you don't. He was basically like saying you don't need a Messiah. You don't need to worry about a Messiah. All you need to do is keep Torah, and we can fulfill everything on our own. But if that's the case, then how do you explain Isaiah 53? It's telling you it's talking about a Messiah. Actually, can you go ahead and get Isaiah 53? Dang, I gotta find, what was that guy's name? Because now it's gonna bother me. I can't remember the guy's name. Oh, turn down the sound on that. Dang it, what is the guy's name? It's gonna bug the hell out of me if I can't remember it. All right, I'll put it on the screen.
Yeah.
There you go.
Isaiah 53 and 1.
Mm-hmm.
Who hath believed our report, and to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed? For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of a dry ground. He hath no form, no comeliness, and when we shall see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him. He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows, and acquainted with grief. And we hid, as it were, our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he hath borne our griefs and carried our sorrows. Yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed.
And so right there alone, when they talk about their Messiah, if their Messiah wasn't beaten and whipped, then how, and that's what I'm saying, when you start going away from the Torah and the Tanakh, when you start getting away from the Bible and you start focusing on the Talmud and mysticism and all this other stuff, you start missing little things like this. Their prerequisites for what they believe a Messiah is completely ignores what Isaiah 53 says a Messiah is. Complete contradiction, but they don't get that. And this is their top sages who literally spend hours and hours and hours studying what they'll tell you is the Torah, but or what they'll say, oh, it's the oral Torah. No, it's the Talmud. That is not the words which Moses brought down. But majority of them, when you start having a dialogue back and forth with some of these rabbis or rebbes, you'll find out that their understanding and knowledge of the Bible is very limited. Um,
Oh,
and actually, when you deal with this Chabad Lubavitch movement, it gets even more limited because many of them don't receive any other learning. They don't receive any other schooling. They don't receive anything secular. They don't go to college. And so if they're not taken upon to become a Rebbe, a lot of times they just go into whatever the family business of people who don't take up becoming a Rebbe. And in the New York area, you'll see many who become shop owners or something like that, or running a grocery store or things like that, which don't require very much education. Not trying to throw a slight or a diss, but for people, for my New Yorkers out there, you'll know and be able to verify and attest to this. You don't see very many Hasidic Jewish people doing anything outside of running a shop or a store if they're not a Rebbe or a rabbi. So I'm sorry for I had to just add that little bit in. Um, so it's all yours, sir.
What did you want me to read?
Um, I think that was all I really had for that. I just wanted to bring up the fact of overall, I guess in a nutshell, we can close out with well on this topic because I don't have very much to really go in. I mean, we could go in deeper and deeper. It takes some time. Oh, that's what I did. I did have a video that I wanted to show because there's footage of when that Rebbe actually came over to America, and it's kind of interesting. It's very interesting when you start looking into it. It actually kind of surprised me. Oh, and there's also footage, believe it or not, of the current president of Israel at this same Chabad Lubavitch location in New York. And not only New York is the headquarters of the Chabad Lubavitch um, synagogue, but there are many uh, Chabad synagogues throughout the world. It's just New York is the biggest one. I mean, we have one literally out here in LA also. But what I wanted to show you, well, don't want to do that. Okay, share. I wanted to show this video, and you could probably skip about 2 minutes in. This is showing the Rebbe when he came, and this would be Yosef Yitzhak Schneiderson, when Schneerson or however you pronounce it, I don't really care. But this video is him when he's coming into New York. Mind you, this guy is coming in. He's already coming in with a police escort and everything like that. I'm like, he was already a pretty high profile person, I'm guessing. That even in New York, he had police escorts and people waiting for him and stuff like that. And here, they're kind of explaining like some of the people around him and who he's talking to and stuff. It's just it's interesting to say the least.
Okay.
So
Ready?
this is what 1949. Yeah, go on ahead.
Speak about the Rebbe's tremendous respect, awe really, in his father-in-law's presence, Rabbis Sholem Goldschmidt and Yisrael Gordon.
It was something unusual, but the way the Rebbe was sitting, and this Rebbe, the Ramash that time, the way he was sitting with a Bittel, nicht kein Wort is gerät, like sits in front von a Sefer Torah. That's the way he was sitting, in front of the Rebbe, all the time.
When he sat upstairs by the meal, he used to try to help his father. So the Rebbe used to, in case his spoon wasn't close enough, the Rebbe used to move over the spoon over there. So the Rebbe wants to drink, he used to pour the drink. But it was done inconspicuously. A lot of respect, never a word spoken. He had this total bittul. The Rebbe, he's a chassid, respect, courtesy, subordination.
Yeah, this is him signing his what is it called?
Citizenship?
Citizenship. Yes, this is him getting all his
That's Yisrael
citizenship papers.
Chanovitz.
Like literally coming in, like as soon as he came in, all of his paperwork is there, ready for him to just sign it.
Judge Philip Kleinfeld. In between the two judges are two clerks of the court.
Judges and clerks of the court are sitting there waiting for him.
Dr. Nissim Mendel of Merkez Linyone Chinuch in the back there.
Like they treated this like this was a huge deal at that
The
time.
petition for naturalization.
Jose, does this not look a little bit like idolatry to you?
With the brown hat
Yeah.
is the famous Yiddish writer, Nissen Gordon, who wrote a beautiful account on this event in the prominent Yiddish newspaper, Der Tog.
The Rebbe treated this as a very special event. He's wearing his shtreimel, which is reserved only for special occasions. That's the signature card. The Rebbe is getting ready to take the oath of citizenship, and the Rebbe explains it to his father-in-law.
Yeah, I mean that you don't have to keep going. That's good enough. I just wanted to show you. That like how it was taken when he came over here.
Yeah.
And when he came to America, he was treated like, and people, and that doesn't even show the clips of like all the people who were like waiting out just to like get a glimpse of him and touch him, and they treated him like he was like a star. And when he died, his son became the new Messiah. I just sent you over that clip. This one's shorter, but this last clip is his son, the last Rebbe or Messiah, which some of his students believe that they believe that like their teachers or their Rebbes like that come back to them and talk to them and come through other people's bodies and different things like that. So even though he died in 94, which this would be Menachem Mendel Schneederson, even though he died in 94, some of his students still believe that he's alive today and that he's still somehow going to bring peace on earth and build the third temple.
Fascinating.
So yeah, this is why I said it. I really wanted to bring up like some of their belief system, because while people are focusing on the tunnel stuff, it is weird. There's a lot of weird stuff going on here.
Ready?
Yep. No, I hope you guys can recognize that person. That's a young Bibi Netanyahu.
It's so different.
בזמן שישראל לאחרונה נתפסו כמה עניינים. מה שרואה עוד, וגם משהו שעדיין משאיר ליבו. אז הייתה משהו במה ידיעתו. הכנראה שהיא מספיק, כאילו שהיום כבר כמה שוד בגיר ועדיין ליבו. אבל יש עוד כמה שעות, אבל יש להשתדל גם היום, בבשורות טובות.
Now, did you notice something in there? Some of his students believe that he was the Messiah. Now, what did he just say?
That's what is?
Yeah, just go back and pay attention to what he actually said. Because think about it. Some of his students now in 2024 believe that even though he died in 94, he is the Messiah and he is still coming back to build the third temple and bring peace on earth. But listen to what he says.
אז הייתה מה שזאת ניתצו כמה
Oh, go back. Oh,
ימים,
yeah, actually, you had it at the perfect spot. Go back and pause it there.
מה ש...
What hasn't changed, however, is that the Moshiach, Messiah, still hasn't come.
Is this not admitting that that's not him?
Out of his own mouth, he's saying he's not the Messiah. But they believe he is the Messiah.
Why? What?
But also notice here, anybody who thinks that Bibi is just doing he's just completely secular and it's all political Zionism. No, it's not political Zionism. From different generation to generation, these different Rebbes believe they were not for claim that they weren't for Zionism. Many of them say that, we believe in a different version of Zionism. We don't believe in political Zionism. We believe that when the Messiah comes, we'll be in the land and all that stuff will just happen. And then some will say, no, we don't really have a problem with what's going on over there, but so I don't. It's just different. I don't. It's hard to know which Rebbe to take serious, which rabbi to listen to, because right here, Netanyahu is literally talking with one, and they both sound like they're Zionists, and that he is trying to fulfill what this rabbi is talking about, and talking about, yes, we're getting progress, but things haven't progressed enough. Now, if you're going from what the belief system is, what does the Bible say? Because think about it. And remember, Bibi has been strong on saying he does not believe in a two-state solution. What would any person who believes the land of Israel? What are the borders, Jose? What does the Bible say the borders of Israel's land is? Because now we're going into faith, and so let's show what the Bible says that they believe. Because keep in mind, Netanyahu has referenced the Bible when he brought up Amalek. So if you guys think that was a one-off, and you think that he is that there is no goal of trying to fill biblical prophecies, let's see what Genesis says when it starts talking about the bounds of the lands. And then it'll start making some sense about what's going on right now in the world and some of the political projects and some of the different minor wars that have been going on.
So, let me see. Let me actually get the... did you want the quote from Isaiah first?
Sure, that's fine.
All right. So Bibi recently referenced Isaiah 8 and verse 22.
Mm-hmm.
Isaiah 8 and 22. And they shall look unto the earth and behold trouble and darkness, dimness of anguish, and they shall be driven to darkness.
Oh, yeah. That's the one he literally just said, like, was it today or yesterday?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because he just referenced this, like, recently, like, very recently.
No, he would... Damn, no. I was reading from an article that's dated in 2015. But
no. He just said this one, and then he went on to say, like, he didn't like literally just quote the scripture, but he did paraphrase this and then start talking about Israel must take the land from the river to the sea.
Oh, that one. Okay.
Must be in control of the land from the river to the sea.
Okay, um, so let me actually get Joshua where the borders are actually defined. Let me see. What do I want?
I'll help you.
I need to find it.
No, it's Genesis 15.
Oh, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because Joshua, I know early on in Joshua that the borders are defined.
No, but it says it nice and clearly in Genesis 15. You can start at what, 17, I believe.
Okay. Genesis 15 and verse 17. Oh, actually 18.
18.
Yeah,
18.
okay. Genesis 15 and 18. And the same day the Lord made a covenant with Abram, saying, Unto thy seed have I given this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates.
Mm-hmm. And I've brought this up numerous times. That land, that would be part of Egypt, that would be part of Lebanon, that would be part of Syria, that would be going into Saudi Arabia, that would be going into Iraq, that would be going into Iran, and part of Turkey. And if you see, except for Turkey, there are literally like staging wars and back and forth in war with all of these countries, except for Turkey and Saudi Arabia. But there have literally been strikes in all of these countries over the past couple of years, and continuously looking for war and prodding with it with Iran right now. But yeah, that's, I mean, you got anything else on this one?
No.
Yeah, I'll just close up with basically they believe that a man is the Messiah who died, who claimed that he wasn't the Messiah. And you guys can go back and review the whole hour, the first hour. But let's move on to the next topic. I just saw the Book of Clarence probably on Tuesday, and Jose saw it last Friday and is going to go see it again tomorrow. And I wanted to I was chomping at the bit to ask him questions about it at the time, but I was like, nope, I don't want any spoilers. And then I was like, I'll talk to him a little bit before the show, but I didn't have time. I had some stuff going on, so now you get to hear our live opinions and our reactions to each other's perspectives on the film. So first off, and oh, that's right. Keep in mind, anybody who's watching from this point on, spoilers. If you haven't seen it and you want to go back and you want to come back and watch this, just remember about an hour and 3 into the program is when we start talking about it. If you want to skip to this point, an hour and 3 is where to skip to. But at this point, we're going to talk about it. If you don't want to see it at all, or if you don't care about spoilers, then okay, we're about to go on. So everybody's been warned. Jose, what did you think of the movie?
I thought it had, as the phrase goes, the best lies always have tiny nuggets of truth in them.
Mm-hmm.
As far as it being generally entertaining, like I give it a 6.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Like, of course, going into the movie, you have to go into the mindset of there is no way that the Hollywood industry run by the people that, you know,
Hmm.
um, run by small hats. There's no way they can seriously make a movie with an all black, near all black cast. And
Make it serious.
yeah, there's no way. There needs to be a comedy. There needs to be several Judah stereotypes.
Which I have a phrase. I have something that I want to give you, and I want to quote a secular source on this one. I'm going to quote a philosopher,
Okay.
um, Arthur Schopenhauer, and he had this one quote which I've saved because it's so fitting, and I'm pretty sure other people have paraphrased it and said it other ways. But the quote goes, "Let me grab it." It says, "All truth passes through three stages. First, it is ridiculed. Second, it is violently oppressed. Third, it is accepted as being self-evident." And I look at this as some of the truth being ridiculed. And that was the purpose of it. And then, as you see with some of our brothers, when some of the conversations they have, it's violently oppressed. And then you see some people where they have accepted the truth, and it's pretty clear and obvious to them it's truth. In fact, it's obvious to more people who don't accept the faith than some of the people who we claim that it's them. They don't recognize it. But some of the things which I would like to bring up is, first thing I'll tell you is the cinematography was great. The filming of it was beautifully done. Um, the scenery, the way it looked, it was like, man, I wish I could transport to that place. It looked that beautiful. Um, Next thing I would say is, of course, the costumes and everything looked good. I felt like the acting from all of the people was top tier. Everybody did their part. The issues, one of the issues that I have, and I'm trying to remember, do I still, you know what? Let me find that TikTok that I did before I get into anything, before I get into any of my of what I said about it. Let's go back to what I said when I first heard about it. Do you remember me doing that?
No, I don't think so.
I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find it and I'm gonna send it to you
All right.
just to play because I did commentary on it at the time, and I also am curious too how different what I said then, not seeing it, will fit with my viewpoint after seeing it. So there it is. I just sent it to you. Um, I definitely felt the cinematography was great, but I did notice a phrase that was being reiterated, and I noticed phrases that were being reiterated multiple times, and I didn't think much of it at the time because if you translate, for instance, Jose, when we say shalom or shalom, what does that mean?
Peace to you.
Peace to you. And so that phrase is said multiple times in the movie. Well, I'll keep that in mind, and then I'm gonna bring up why that didn't really catch my attention at first, but then after some more thought and looking at some things, why it was something that it kind of stuck out to me, but didn't stick out at the same time. So I guess here's my take. Then let's give it a little listen.
Okay.
Recently, with this Book of Clarence movie that is coming out, I've heard a lot of stir, a lot of hysteria, blasphemy, 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 run for the hills, from definitely Christian TikTok and just from a lot of Christians just in general. And what I would say is, um, I think that there can be good things that we can derive from this film. A lot of, I don't know how many Christians know this or don't know this. And shout out to Deacon Hakkad for reminded me of the names of the people. I remember that there were false prophets in the biblical days, but I feel that it's overdue time that there is a movie that at least brought out that that is something that took place in the Bible. Um, Bar Jesus, Simon, both of them were known as false prophets, who were in the biblical times, who were trying to, ride off the fame of the Messiah and trying to, you know, trying to replicate what he had going on and try to capitalize on the movement that was going on in the time. So I don't think it's necessarily blasphemous to do a movie that is covering real events that were going on in the time, as long as they're not mocking the Messiah in the movie, or trying to make the Messiah some kind of fraud, also, or like Clarence portrays in this movie. I think it's a good thing to at least put this movie out. But the cinematography looks outstanding, and for many people, we feel like the people in those days would have been, for lack of better words, black people, are definitely heavily melanated people. And so to see something which we feel is more closer to representation, I don't have a problem with with seeing that in there. Granted, I know that Jay Z is problematic for many reasons. For making a movie like this, it still doesn't mean that there can't be some good to come out of this movie. And as long as people, especially I say those of faith, are looking with spiritual eyes and spiritual discernments, I don't think we'll fall for any of the Illuminati type, messaging and do as thou will stuff that might be in there. One thing that I did notice, which I haven't seen anybody bring up, that I see that they're already trying to slip in, that I've saw from the previews, is he says something about knowing or knowledge is more important than belief, which sounds like some of the early teaching of Gnosticism. So I just think that it's a lot of interesting things that are going on, and if we're paying attention, and you know, it's all right to have a little laugh here and there, yeah, but as long as it's at the expense of false prophets, because there were false prophets. So it's nothing wrong with that. It's more or less Jay Z, because here's the problem: we've had plenty of movies where they talk about the Messiah, plenty of movies where, I mean, Passions of the Christ came out, and I don't remember any Christians, bewailing or bemoaning the fact that they made a movie with Jesus in it. And from the way it looks to me, it looks like they're not really going to focus very much on, on Jesus. And just like in the times of the Messiah, you had false prophets then, and in the last days of his return, there's going to be false prophets also. So I think it helps us all focus on that fact and be aware of the false prophets which may come about later on. I do think it's kind of weird also on the backdrop of Jay Z's kind of book of Hove, and how he calls himself Jehovah, and he has songs like Lucifer, and I get it, you know, Beyonce, the things she did with the Bible pages, just disgusting and wicked. So I understand why people have problems with somebody like Jay Z being involved in this. I mean, throwing in like what Kanye saying that he sold his soul for a crappy deal, but at least he got some toys like a Happy Meal. I get why people are not enthused about that, but doesn't mean that there can't be some good takeaways from it.
I mean, I think I don't. My viewpoint after watching it and before is kind of similar.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with it for like a fair chunk of what you're saying. Oh, what you said back then.
I don't feel like the only thing that I would say different, in which I guess I was right about the fact that they weren't going to focus on the Messiah very much. I mean, he wasn't even in the movie very much.
Mhm.
And they didn't. I don't feel like they mocked the Messiah, so I didn't have a problem with that. I didn't like how some of the things were over the top, like the floating through the sky, and uh, some people had a problem with some of the drug use and stuff in there, but um, and I even heard somebody I've considered that's taught me a lot said, well, there were no atheists in the first century, and I'm like, Bro, how can you say something like that? If it says there's nothing new under the sun, then obviously there would have been people who would have been non-believers. You can't tell me that there wouldn't have been non-believers. If that's the case, or if you believe that the Israelites were so pious at that time, why did only a mere 40 years later Jerusalem be destroyed and the Israelites are dispersed in all other nations? I mean, so that means that every manner of wickedness had to be going on for that level of destruction to come upon us. So I mean, I don't buy the belief that, oh well, there's no way that the Israelites were. No.
What was Paul talking about in Romans 3:3? What if some did not believe? Shall their unbelief make the faith of God without effect? God
Exactly. Exactly right there. It's literally telling you that some people didn't believe. Now, some people will twist that into saying, well, if they don't believe on the Messiah. There were some people who didn't believe on the Messiah, and there were some people who did not believe at all. But didn't believe anything. And also, how could you make the claim to know if you knew if there were any atheists at the time? I mean, it's not like you can even number how many people actually even follow the Messiah or not. No, I've heard some people like the creator and director of this. I heard in an interview, he said, "Oh, well, he only had a couple of disciples, and he was speaking to a crowd of like maybe 60 people, who were following him." Like, no, not even close. He was speaking to large, giant crowds of people. And there were many people who were believing on him. And everywhere he was going, he was amassing large crowds and large followers everywhere. A good point that I heard is they did almost make it like the disciples were snobs. Like they looked down on the people, and that I didn't like.
That had to have been during the earlier part of the movie that I happened to miss. Damn.
Well, even just the way they if you think about just the way like they showed up in the first scene when they're kind of showing them, they're showing this presence about them that seemed like they were better than everybody else, and like how they were almost like bodyguards for the big celebrity who's coming through. Whereas Christ or Yahushua, you hear and you read about it. He was around the lowest of low in society. He went around the homeless and the hookers and the poor and every criminal. He was around all of those people because that's who he was trying to message to. Those are the souls he were trying to save because those are the ones who needed him the most.
Now, to an extent, like from what you're telling me, how the disciples acted like a bodyguard around Christ. In the case of like Matthew 15 and the Canaanite woman approaching,
Yeah.
Even that is true. They definitely were. The disciples said, "Send this woman away. She's bothering us." I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah, I mean that's correct in the case of the Canaanite woman, but also it was because she wasn't an Israelite. You think that he would have had that mentality with the Israelites? No. Now, it also depicted from a Christian lens. Well, actually, I don't even want to say a Christian lens because the director is not a Christian. He grew up with a Christian upbringing, and that's what I find. People who move into other faiths and beliefs, their depiction of so-called Christian, Christian type the biblical stuff is they go with the presuppositions and things that they learned while they were in Christianity. Mm-hmm. And they might kind of push back on some of the things which they had questions on in Christianity. So I'm trying to think of what's a good example. Even just like the whole I'm going to hit.
I was going to mention, like, you could always mention to the concept of the virgin birth.
Well, that was one of the ones that I wanted to bring up, that that the virgin birth, and but I'll say Gorilla did make a good point how they brought in the emphasis of understanding of virgin and marriage. that
Yeah,
sex
like
is marriage.
like I liked and I thought it was cheeky, clever of Hollywood in general to have Clarence to have Mary explain the actual breakdown of what a virgin means, like being a woman of a marriageable age.
Mhm.
But there's the sinister Hollywood effect of making Clarence be like, I don't believe in the virgin birth, being a topic of ridicule. And
Exactly.
yeah,
They made the whole the fact that it was the belief of a biological birth, like that's heresy or that's idiotic. Whereas it's
it's a
that's
little
something.
sinister. It's a little.
Yeah, I feel like because um it almost made it seem like anybody who questioned that is automatically heretical and wrong. And there, I don't know. Did you want to take that one?
I'm already in Romans chapter 1.
Okay.
All right. In Romans chapter 1 and verse 1, Paul literally starts his letter with Paul, a servant of Jesus Christ, called to be an apostle, separated unto the gospel of God, which he had promised before by his prophets in the Holy Scriptures, concerning his son, Yahushua HaMashiach, our Lord, which was made of the seed of David according to the flesh.
Now, unless y'all telling me that the angel went and took his semen out of his body and then implanted it into Mary, I mean, make that make sense. Explain that part to me. How is he the seed? And then here's another thing. It said that he was made in the manner of every other king. Every other king was like Solomon says that were compacted in blood for 10 months.
That's Wisdom of Solomon 7, I think.
Exactly.
I think it's definitely Wisdom of Solomon.
But if Solomon is the wisest man of all time, and Solomon is telling you this, but you lean on your pastor because when you're leaning on your pastor, and he's going against what Solomon is saying. So what you're saying is you believe your pastor is wiser than Solomon.
Oh, actually, give me a moment.
Mm-hmm.
Let me find it.
Yeah, you're literally saying that you believe your pastor is wiser than Solomon because Solomon says that's the way every king is born.
Okay,
and if Christ is a king, well, and one thing I've never understood, because when I hear Christians say this, I'm like, you say 100% man and 100% God. How can you be 100% man and 100%? You can't be 100%. You're 50% man. You're 50% God. That's like Hercules. That's going into Greek mythology.
So let's see if the Most High here in 2 Samuel is a liar when he's talking to David. All right, 2 Samuel verse 7 and 10. Moreover, I will appoint a place for my people Israel and will plant them, that they may dwell in a place of their own and move no more. Neither shall the children of wickedness afflict them any more as before time. And as since the time that I commanded judges to be over my people Israel, and have caused thee to rest from all thy enemies, also the Lord telleth thee that he will make thee a house. And when thy days be fulfilled, then thou shalt sleep with thy fathers. I will set up thy seed after thee, which shall proceed out of thy bowels, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. Mm-hmm. So, Northern Kingdom was finished in 2 Kings chapter 17, and the end of Jeremiah has the Southern Kingdom get led away into captivity. So the kingdom that is going to be set up forever must be the Messiah's.
Yeah, which that's never right. I'm not even going to go into that. Back onto the Chabad people and their misunderstandings. But another thing is it says that it's profitable for him to be made like his brothers and sisters. So do you believe that Christ's brothers and sisters, you believe Peter is made through the Immaculate Conception also? You have to believe that if he's made like his brothers. And also I've heard Christians say, well, God had to come down so that he could sacrifice himself to be the ultimate sacrifice because we couldn't keep anything. Well, then what will be the point of him doing that?
This is going to evolve into a Trinity like bashing.
I mean, but that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Because if he says you can do all things through Christ which strengthen you, and he says multiple people throughout the Bible were found righteous and blameless, and then he's saying you can do the same thing, what you're saying is you're calling God a liar. When you say, never mind. I'm not gonna keep going down that rabbit hole. I mean, we got about like 30 minutes or so, and it's a couple other points that I want to hit. But another thing that I would say, like which I brought up in there briefly, that I did like the fact that he brought up about that that Thomas had a twin. Now he made Clarence Thomas's twin, which it's not often talked about, Thomas's twin. Also, anybody like, I still stand by the point that I like the fact that they brought up a story about a false Messiah, because without bringing up a story like this, I don't think a lot of Christians would even know that there were false messiahs. And we're talking about not one or two. There were many false messiahs in Christ's day alone. So just like it was many false messiahs when he was on the scene then, it's going to be false messiahs during his return. Just like we've been seeing and hearing about. And like Sons of Thunder has one crazy ass false messiah who comes out to their camp all the time. You know what I'm talking about? What's his name? Yaju or whatever?
Yeah. So touching on Thomas. So I also, something that kind of irritated me a little bit is how Clarence was, I don't know. Yeah, he didn't really mention anything. How they tried to make the audience sympathize with Clarence when he was angry with Thomas and saying, like, you forsook everything, like our family, to go follow this guy. When Christ
says, yeah,
mouth, Matthew 10:35. For I am come to set a man at variance against his father, and the daughter against her mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law.
And Thomas at that point would have had that would have had a sharp response already ready for Clarence if he was coming from that perspective. Also, I believe that when he was coming at the disciples, they would have been throwing scriptures at him right and left. They would have been cutting him up with the scriptures, and so that he wouldn't have even had valid arguments to come back with. Something also which they threw in there, and from a movie standpoint alone, for entertainment, my favorite character in the movie would have been Barabbas. Because he was just funny, and plus I like I can't remember his name right now. Omar Sy. I watched him on another show because he's a French actor. The show Lupin. And Lupin is basically a one of Sherlock Holmes' nemesis, the gentleman thief. But anyway, off topic. Barabbas is, what's interesting about that is Barabbas was a revolutionary in Yahushai's time, and he was when it was brought to the chief priest, the Romans asked, which one do you want us to let go? Do you want us to let Christ go, or do you want us to let Barabbas go? And they were like, no, we want Barabbas. And they're like, yo, but this other guy didn't really do anything. I mean, I don't really have a reason to do anything. What do you guys want me to do? And they're like, crucify him, crucify him, crucify him, kill him. And he's like, but what did he do? And those the Romans were like, and here's something also that they threw into the movie, which was inaccurate. Pontius Pilate didn't want to kill him for multiple reasons. It wasn't only because he didn't do anything and because he was peaceful and all that. It was also because he had already been in a little hot water for how brutal he was on the people there. And all the way in well, this you learn in Roman, it's like secular history, studying the Romans were a little upset with Pontius Pilate. And he was kind of like, let me walk on eggshells a little with this situation. I don't really want to crucify this guy and get myself in more hot water. And eventually he did get relieved of his command. And that's something like actual facts that you can look at secular history. He got relieved of his command before that. And, you know, I'm not going to go all the way into Roman history and all that, but they made it seem like, oh, no, Rome told me to come do this. No, Rome didn't say to do that. They made it seem like that it was Rome when it was actually the Pharisees. And a lot of Christians will bring up that it was the Pharisees, but they don't bring up why the Pharisees did it. They look at it as, oh, well, we were just against him and all that. Can you bring up the account from you know who I'm talking about? Man, why is my memory not that great right now? Man, why come I can't remember his name? The high priest. Let's see. Let me find it real quick. Who's the high priest? High priest.
Caiaphas? No.
Caiaphas. Yes, it's Caiaphas.
Okay, so that's
yes.
That's an Acts.
And look
unless wait, hang on.
No, it's not an Acts. It's not
you
an
want John 18. I think that's what you're looking for. Wait. Okay.
I can find it. Yeah. John 11.
Oh, okay.
It's John 11 and 45. Because a lot of Christians go into, oh, well, the Pharisees just wanted him dead because they hated him and they were jealous of him, and they give all these things. But if you go right here to John 11, it tells you exactly why the Pharisees did what they did. And that's the reason why they said no. And this is something which, and of course, you know, the Jewish community and Judaism, they don't believe in the so-called New Testament. And so they'll be like, no, we didn't kill Jesus. We didn't kill Jesus. But Caiaphas says he did, and he explains why. There's a reason for it.
Okay. John 11 and 45. Then many of the Jews which came to Mary and had seen the things which Yahushua did believed on him. But some of them went their ways to the Pharisees and told them what things Yahushua had done. Then gathered the chief priests and the Pharisees a council and said, what do we? For this man doeth many miracles. If we let him thus alone, all men will believe on him, and the Romans shall come and take away both our place and nation. And one of them, named Caiaphas, being the high priest that same year, said unto them, Ye know nothing at all, nor consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not. And this spake he not of himself, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Yahushua should die for that nation.
Now, right there, it tells you That's why Caiaphas, that's why the Pharisees actually did the plot for him to die. And also, it was prophesied for him to die this way. And so Caiaphas, knowing the prophecies, knowing what needs to happen, knowing he is the Messiah, and he needs to die for the nation of Israel. If he does not die for the nation of Israel this way, sins will not be forgiven. That means when the temple goes away, which he knew the temple was going to go, there wouldn't be any sin offerings that you can do. He knew that. And so therefore, all of the nation would have perished because all of us would be worthy of death and there would be no forgiveness for it. That's what Christians don't understand about why they say the Jews killed Jesus. They did, and this is why. Because they understood the scriptures and they understood that he was the Messiah and they understood what his purpose for. And so when it talks about and it talks about it in Revelations when it starts talking about the perfect sacrifice and the lamb came to open the book. Why is it a lamb? Because a unblemished lamb is a perfect slaughter. It's a perfect sacrifice. But when it talks about the lion, the lamb is the first coming. He came peacefully. He might have yelled at some people and this and that, but he didn't start a revolution. Well, not a revolution in the sense of a violent revolution like a Barabbas wanted to do, which some of the people there wanted to fight back against it, because a lot of Christians don't even look at the Romans being there, which it starts talking about them in Matthew. But if you actually read into the Apocrypha, you can see when they start creeping into the picture earlier, and when it became a siege, and when the land of Israel became a vassal state to the Romans, when he became oppressed by the Romans, that's the reason why these revolts and rebellions and things like that were going on. But skipping out the Apocrypha, you don't get any of this background knowledge. And the crazy part about it is when you listen to the different councils, it literally tells you that all of this stuff is canon. Even if you listen to, you go to Bible college now and they'll tell you it's deuterocanonical. What does that mean? Oh, it's factual information. We just don't think it really matters as much as for your salvation. I'm like, what? Come again? But when you're in Christianity, you don't pay attention to that, because I guarantee you a lot of your pastors don't even know that, because they probably didn't spend much time paying attention while they were in Bible college. They still recalled what they learned before and then learned just enough to pass, just like a lot of people do when they're in school. They do enough to get by, to get that degree, and then they get out there and they read one or two scriptures and then rant on and on and on about what they think it means, instead of using the Bible to back up what's being said there, or instead of using it for just inspirational speech or prosperity doctrine. Another thing that I would bring up, and this I got from watching the interview, because I watched the Breakfast Club's full interview. James Samuel, the director and creator of this, he was using Clarence as a reference to a lot of these prosperity gospel preachers. What is it? Titus, was it Titus 1:10? I think that's the one I want. I think Titus 1:10 is the one I want. This is, and he was representing these pastors that get up there and know they're in fact, I want you to start with actually start with 7. Start with 7, because I want to. A lot of people will read to skip to 10, and I had it right in my head. 10 was the one I want, but let's start with 7, and let's read down. And I believe that this was talking about these wolves in sheep clothing. A lot of these pastors who were up there who were doing this for money or mammon. Because and last thing I'll say, because if you think about it, what was Clarence motivations? Clarence motivation was the status and money.
Titus 1 and 7. For a bishop must be blameless as the steward of God, not self-willed, not soon angry, not given to wine, no striker, not given to filthy lucre, but a lover of hospitality.
Actually, go back. Filthy lucre. What is filthy lucre?
Like a lover of money or possessions?
Exactly. Being materialistic, wanting money.
Verse 8. But a lover of hospitality, a lover of good men, sober, just, holy, temperate.
Now let's go back. Pause. When we say a lover of good men, that don't mean, what some people be thinking. Let's back that up. That means to be in a company, to be around righteous people, to be around good-hearted people.
Verse 9. Holding fast the faithful word as he hath been taught, that he may be able by sound doctrine both to exhort and to convince the gainsayers.
Yeah, and that means to convince those what do they call it, scoffers.
Verse 10. For there are many unruly and vain talkers and deceivers, especially they of the circumcision, whose mouths must be stopped, who subvert whole houses, teaching things which they ought not, for filthy lucre's sake.
Because that's what some of these pastors are out here doing. Like I just saw one church, they up there swag surfing. Like, I don't know if you know what that means, but I heard a pastor, he talking about, well, is it all right to smoke weed in the church? And they're just bringing up and talking about all kind of random stuff to try to get people into the church. Yeah, I mean, it's getting crazy out here. Like, I'm not even gonna go into the TD Jake stuff, but or like Creflo Dollar. Remember, he had that one where he's running around on the stage and all that money. I saw one where a pastor, one of the old videos I did, where the pastor's throwing out money to kids like they're like he's at a strip club or something. And then for people, there's a part in there where he goes to like the local bad guy, the crime lord of the time, Jedediah. Now, were there people like that in the biblical days? Of course there were. Don't be foolish, people. There's anything that's going on now, you had a version of it back then. You had people selling illegal goods, and you had people stealing. You had the gypsies. You had all kind of stuff like that. They might not have been called gypsies, but you had people who were robbing people and all kind of stuff. You had murderers. You had people who were taking advantage of women, and you had harems and all kind of stuff. I mean, in fact, one of the patriarchs got in trouble for that. Meeting a woman. I don't know if you guys read about the Asterix poll, where that's kind of a. Are you familiar with that?
No, I think we're going on a tangent.
Well. I just brought that up because of the harem situation that was brought up in there.
Oh,
I heard
that dance scene area.
I heard some Christian people, making a big deal about that, and
I thought that was just really bad pacing and like in fluffing for time.
I mean, I think they just threw that in to try to make it as if that. I mean, just try to show that that's something that was going on at the time. I mean, and I'm just glad that they didn't go too explicit with it. Um, and like and then there definitely was, I mean, they've even found, doing archaeology, they found drugs in those areas.
Huh.
They found illicit type drugs in those areas. And so to say that there wasn't any kind of drug use or anything in Israel, because that would have been against the law, statutes, and commandments, and literally the law of the land. America has laws, and you don't think people are breaking those? I mean, it's a reason why that part where they wanted to stone Mary Magdalene.
I wanted to talk about that.
Now, granted, that's not exactly how that story how it went according to the Bible.
Yeah, and
Um,
in John 8,
mhm.
the woman was just caught in adultery, period. She was nameless.
Yeah,
I thought,
it was not Mary Magdalene.
yeah, I thought it was very weird that and also something that was very out there. They had no need to do this, but they threw that in there anyway. That she was being stoned for
Mhm.
sleeping with the
Romans.
and
Yeah.
the like in the actual account in John 8, the person who she had slept with was nameless and just not even brought forth, which the law commanded that both of them should be stoned, well, whatever.
Mhm.
Um, that this like
Well, you gotta remember.
there was no need for Hollywood to want to include that segregation.
Well, it
Which,
wasn't necessarily Hollywood who did it. That would be Jay-Z
well,
and James Samuel, and I'll get to why they did that. Also, there was no need to have Mary Magdalene in a go-kart race or in a chariot race at the beginning of the movie either.
yeah, I didn't see that
Oh,
part.
you'll see. Yes,
Okay.
they're literally in a
That's-
chariot race at the beginning of the movie.
Okay.
And she's betting against Clarence and Elijah, and they're chariot racing through the streets. In which that's why he's in debt to Jedediah, because he borrowed the money from him and the chariot and horse.
I see. I see.
Mhm. So so they take some liberties. Another thing that I don't believe the Romans. Well, I know for a fact the Romans wouldn't have all been white.
Mhm.
The Romans literally, in fact, some of the Roman soldiers in there might have actually been Israelites also. Well, I know for a fact some of them were. Cornelius was.
Mhm.
But the Romans at that time, any of the nations which they came in contact with, they took people from all of those places and they made them a part of their army. And so there were people of various different so-called nations and races that would have been a part of the Romans. Now, with the higher leadership for the most.
Ah, damn. Marcus got booted out after he got froze. Damn. But yeah, I think it is documented that whenever Rome would conquer a nation, or yeah, basically conquer a nation, that they would gather, like grab some of their people and try to enlist the strongest of them to beef up their
Mhm.
numbers. Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely did that. One and I guess like let's see, I hit. Oh yeah. Um, how I I like how they showed the crucifixion kind of scene, but I didn't like how they literally copy paste what was done in the Passion of the Christ.
Speaking of the I like how I found it charming that they made the Caesar Borgia Like
that was funny.
that
That
was
was freaking hilarious.
I liked how they made him wicked sounding. Like
Well,
as he was being crucified, it's like y'all suck.
yeah, he was like, "Oh no, I'm not with this." Like, yo, God, kill all these people, kill everybody. Which that's kind of more the mentality of a lot of people would have had, not a real Messiah. And it's kind of well, and then another thing that I like, which they did with that is, and I heard a Christian lady get mad about this. It's like, I don't like how they made it how black women would have like just been bowing down to a white Jesus. Well, if you look in a lot of the churches now, which still have white Jesus up on the wall, who are most of the parishioners in there? Black women still up in the black church with white Jesus up on the wall. So, and a lot of the Christians who we see, some of the Christian apologists who will go against Hebrew Israelites all the time, typically are black women. So, I can understand and see some of that. It was I thought it was kind of funny and ironic how they forced Clarence to how his beliefs changed. Now, they played a trick with us. They made it seem like, oh, he came to the faith and belief, but they never concretely told you what he believed in now. They just showed you he had some kind of a faith now. And so through his faith, now he knows. And that's like when they made him walk on water. And you saw, but the way it was alluded to, how the clouds kind of opened and everything like that, to me, it came across as giving the impression that the Most High, the Father, was doing that. But and then also how it was, Yahushua or Jesus or Yeshua, who's the one who opens his tomb and who brings him back from the dead. Now imagine this is after his crucifixion and his, arising, that he went and got Clarence. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. Some people took it as, no, they're making it as if, that he didn't have this belief towards the Father. They kind of leave that up to interpretation. Another thing I would throw in, because we're getting kind of short on time. This is the one thing that I kind of held to the end. James Samuel is his belief system is he's a 5%er. And this term, I don't know if everybody knows. Definitely a lot of people who are not familiar with like a lot of black culture, and especially in hip hop world, you wouldn't be familiar necessarily with 5%ers. And James Samuel's a 5%er. Jay-Z is a 5%er, and Lakeith Stanfield kind of, I don't know if he actually is, but I know he is sympathetic to 5%ers. Remember when I talked about that kind of Gnosticism view? And it's kind of interesting, people like, why would he have chosen the name Clarence in particular? Well, the 5%ers were created by a man who goes by the name of Clarence 13X, which Malcolm X, when he broke away from the Nation of Islam, one of his kind of students or followers was Clarence 13X. Clarence 13X left the Nation of Islam because of a dispute that he was having as far as the nature of God. His belief system was that there was no God, no higher power, no Father. There was no Most High. That God is the black man. That the black man is the creator of everything, and we have been the originators of everything on the earth and passed down all knowledge. That we are Islam, we are Hebrew Israelites, we are Christianity, we are Buddhism. We just taught everything and we were everywhere and we settled everything. Now, where 5%er, now, I don't know, 5%er can push back on me if I'm saying this wrong or they disagree. Because I've heard a little bit of a difference in beliefs from like somebody like Busta Rhymes, for instance, is a 5%er. I had a whole list of like some of the 5%ers. I know Rakim and Eric B, they were 5%ers. Who else is some other 5%ers that I can think of? Let's see. Who else? Big Daddy Kane. That's another 5%er. Let's see. Let me pull it up. Who's some big names? Erica Badu. She's a 5%er. Brand Nubian. Chino XL. J Electronica. Of course, the 5% Nation. The Fugees, like Wyclef. And all of them. Lauryn Hill. Let's see. Lord Jamar, who is a big time podcaster. He's a 5%er. Who's some other ones? The Lost Boys. Papoose, Planet Asia. Positive K, Grand Poobah. Rakim, of course, I already mentioned Rakim. Busta Rhymes, I already said. RZA, like part of Wu-Tang, are 5%ers. That's just some of the 5%ers. There's plenty of 5%ers all throughout hip hop. And honestly, I look at their belief system is a little mix of Islam with a little mix of Gnosticism. And it makes sense that they will focus so much on Thomas, since the Gospel of Thomas is a big time Gnostic work. I honestly just look at the 5%ers as almost like the black version of Christ consciousness. It's very, very similar. It falls under New Age religions, and they'll and remember that talk that we had, Jose, with Franco, how that talk, and it goes into this belief system where they say a lot of things sounding like they're talking, like making it seem like they believe what you believe, when actually they believe something very different. They just try to mask it in a different way. Oh, they're big on numbers too, and they'll talk about what's the math, and things like that. So I'll let y'all do y'all research on 5%ers. But no, James Samuel, who created this, and Jay-Z, they're both 5%ers, and that's a big part of their viewpoint, which I think 5%ers, Christ consciousness, Gnosticism, it all kind of ties in similar to you being your own God and you doing what's right within your own purview. It goes back to Jay-Z and talking about how he was quoting Aleister Crowley and "Doest Thou Wilt" and things like that. So I don't know, what do you think of that? Did you know any of that, Jose?
I did not. I mean, I guess they could have done a lot worse with their history. With their history into the creation process of the movie, but I guess not too much of that is felt.
The only tip off for me was that knowing is knowledge, or whatever he's talking about. Truth is more important. That phrase, when I first heard it in the clips, the first time I heard it, I'm like, that's off. That sounds like Gnosticism. I know, because I was studying Gnosticism for a while. So I know how to recognize some New Age mumbo jumbo when I hear it. Christ consciousness is the same crap that like Marianne Williamson believes, that Oprah believes. And if you look, a lot of these people on the top echelon. They believe some version of this new age nonsense. That's just my thoughts. So I don't know. What's your thoughts? Anything else you'd like to add?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, but I say, like I said in that little short TikTok, I like the fact that it did show I mean, and that was one other thing. Some of the controversy I heard from some people, um, the Israelites wouldn't have been black; they would have looked more Middle Eastern. Well, let's just go into something. Jose, what was the land of Israel known as before the Israelites got there?
The land of Canaan.
The land of Canaan. Now, I've heard a lot of Christians who don't want to say any Semitic people were black at all. I've heard them even say, you know what? Mizrahi or Egyptians, they couldn't have been black either. That put the North Africans, they couldn't have been black either. And so they pretty much leave it only to one group of, like, all black people come from one group of Hamites, basically Canaanites. Okay, so if you read through there, the Israelites nonstop married black people, nonstop married African nations. So even if you believe that they were white, or you believe that they were light brown, or I hate it when people say olive, because there's only two colors of olives, really. You have ripe olives. It's either black or green. I don't see any green people walking around here. So olive would actually be dark black. Ones that aren't ripe are literally brown, exactly my complexion. So when people say olive, and I heard somebody say, well, Jim Caviezel, he's olive. No, he is not olive. Tan and olive are not the beige, and olive are not even the same thing. So when you guys say this olive, and even when you describe Arabs as olive, they're not. Majority of them are not olive. Majority of them are far lighter than olive. So I hate that terminology of calling Middle Eastern olive. Also, if you guys understood the migration patterns, many of those of the people of Middle Eastern, so-called Middle Eastern descent, have a mixture of various Europeans, whether that is Turks, whether that is Greeks, whether that is Romans. I mean, so this mentality that people 2,000 years ago were the same phenotype of the people now is not founded within archaeology. And it's just idiotic to think that. And let's say, for instance, they were. Okay, take a brown person, take a Middle Eastern person who marries with modern day somebody from Sudan. What are their kids going to look like? You're going to tell me that the kids are still going to be lighter complected? The logic just doesn't add up, and it comes from presupposition, which comes from Christianity and from all these murals of painting everything white, and that comes from Eurocentric Christianity. It does not fit with what the actual truth is. And if you care more about truth, then that should not be problematic for you to just understand that. That was just one thing that I saw. I didn't see that nearly as much as I thought I would, but I did see it a couple of times where I heard people who were getting frustrated about, the Jews wouldn't have been black. Like, what crack are you smoking? If you go down through, if you go through like the Israelites, they continuously married nothing but black people over and over and over and over. And you don't think that would have, even if you say that they didn't start out as black, you don't think that would have made some of them black? I mean, you even have Acts 13. There's so many scriptures that talk about the color of Israelites being dark, being variations of brown. You can even look at Like, oh, actually, let me stop cam. You guys see this right here? The mud reliefs from Egypt. That's from Egypt, but yet somehow you still believe that all the Egyptians and the people of that region were basically white people. I mean, it's mind-boggling to me that this belief and understanding. Actually, that's what I can do. I can switch it behind me so you guys can see. Look at this. You telling me that looks like
That don't look like a green olive.
that don't look like a green olive. That does not look like a white person. That does not even look like modern Arabs. So I'm just it's so frustrating when I hear people make these claims without doing any studying of research or the Bible. That's it. We can close it out on that note. Jose, salute us out, brother.
That is all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High God Yahweh, in the name of His only begotten Son Yahweh Shai. And with that, we say Shalom.
Shalom.